What's going on YouTube? So the CX-5 has long been Mazda's best-selling model, and it's also long been one of our favorite compact crossovers. Mazda has been good about making continuous refinements year after year, and now for 2022, they are giving the CX-5 a more significant refresh. So with updated styling, revised equipment, and standard all-wheel drive, is this one of the compact crossovers you should be considering? Let's go ahead and find out. Alright, so before I dig into what's new with the exterior, I do think it is worth mentioning the trim structure has completely changed for 2022. Basically, Mazda has brought this in line with some of their newer models like the Mazda 3. And this specific model we have today is the Premium Plus trim level, which you can kind of think of as the successor to the Grand Touring Reserve minus the turbo engine. But let's dig into what you're going to see in terms of the styling changes for all of the trim levels this year. Basically what Mazda has done is kind of made things look a little chunkier, a little more squared off. So you're going to see that reflected in this wing. As you can see, the wing kind of tapers off and is a little thicker over here on the side. The lower bumper is also a little more thick and squared off this year. And then inside of the grille itself, you're going to have a different texture. This is a three-dimensional texture, which I think looks nice and sporty. You do have a darkened chrome if you go for one of the Carbon Edition models or the Turbo model. Now the other big change, and this is probably what caught your attention when you first looked at the vehicle, that's the updated lighting. So you're going to have standard full LED headlights across all the models, which is nice to see. If you go for the premium trim level or higher, you're going to get this arrangement that we have on this specific model. It does have adaptive abilities. It also has the premium daytime running lights. And we also have an LED turn signal indicator as well. I do like this more squared off look once again. However, I do want to point out fog lights have been eliminated across the entire lineup for 2022. Now the other big thing Mazda did with this 2022 refresh is take the time to change out all of the wheel designs. So your base S through your preferred trim level will come with 17-inch alloys. Those are going to have a dark gray finish. And then all the rest of the trim levels, those are going to come with 19-inch alloys. So what that means is here with the Premium and the Premium Plus trim level, we have a brand new contrast alloy, which I think looks very, very nice. You also, on the Carbon Edition and the Turbo models, you'll get the same design but full black with a nice gloss finish. And then, of course, the signature trim level, that's going to come with that special, I think it's called Brilliant Silver finish to really stand out from the other trim levels. And as we make our way up here to the mirrors, you do have standard blind spot monitoring on all of the trim levels. Once you get to the premium trim level, that's where you'll get heating. And then if you want power folding, you need to get this Premium Plus.
All right, so let's talk about the side design as well as the length figure. So you're coming in at 179.1 inches in length for the CX-5, which is a tiny bit smaller than some of the competition, but not by a lot. And I do want to point out a few of the design elements. As you'll see right here with this model, as well as most of the CX-5s, you will have this black cladding above your wheel arches. It gives it a nice rugged design. However, if you go for that fully loaded signature model, that will body color it all out and give you a more premium and upscale vibe. Now, let's talk about the rear design for the CX-5. They have changed actually quite a bit in terms of the design. Most of it is going to have to do with the taillights, but we do still have our Mazda badge right here in the middle. And then for the taillights themselves, you'll notice that these are going to be a more premium LED setup. It has a more squared off design in terms of just the overall look, but each individual element is going to be fully LED if you go for the premium trims or above. And then if we drop down to the lower area, once again, you're going to have black cladding unless you go for that signature model. We're going to have standard dual exhaust outlets, which is a really nice touch, regardless of which trim level you go for. If you go for the turbo, they will be larger diameter. Then for your towing, you're going to have a 2,000-pound maximum. Now it's time for us to talk about your safety systems as well as the warranty for the CX-5. Two of probably the most important parts about owning this vehicle. So as far as your safety systems are concerned, you're going to have every single one of them as standard equipment, which is pretty consistent with that of the segment. So it's going to be forward emergency braking, lane keeping assist, auto high beams, as well as adaptive cruise control. However, if you go for the top-end signature model, that will throw in a few extra goodies. That's going to be rear auto braking, as well as a traffic jam assistant to go with the adaptive cruise control. Now, as far as your warranties are concerned, you're going to have Mazda's signature warranty, which is a 3-year, 36,000 mile basic warranty and a 5-year, 60,000 mile powertrain warranty with no complimentary maintenance. But guys, as you can see, they have changed several of the design elements on the outside. Now let's go ahead and check out the inside, see if they've done anything in there, and then we'll take it out in a spin.
So heading up to the CX-5, you will find their smart entry system with the brand's typical key fob on all but the base trim level. And to unlock, you'll just press the black button. When you do, your mirrors will also fold outward. Just go ahead and hop in. So of course, as you can probably tell, Mazda definitely spent most of their attention on the exterior versus the interior. So this is going to carry on mostly the same for 2022. That's of course not to say that there are no differences. We will talk about that in just a second. But before we do that, let's go ahead and get into interior color and material choices. So the base trim level is the only model that's going to come standard with cloth seating. However, once you move up to the select trim level, that's where you'll have leatherette seating. And then when you get to the preferred trim level, that's where they will introduce the seating you see here today, which is the full real leather seating. As you can tell on this specific example, we have the really nice color contrast stitching and perforation that runs all down through the middle there. And it does come in this black or also a silk option. And then finally, you do continue to have the ultra premium fine Napa leather option when you go for the top end signature trim level. Now, as far as the seats themselves are concerned, we do have the 8-way power adjusting seat starting with the preferred model, and that trim level will also throw in the 2-stage memory as well. Let's go ahead and talk about the material, starting over here at the door trim. Of course, Mazda has always done an excellent job in this regard, and that continues on for 2022. So we have leather covering basically the entire armrest area, so you have it through here with the stitching detail. A leatherette material across the top, again with the double stitching detail. On this Premium Plus that we have today, we do have a faux wood accent. You do get genuine wood accents if you go for the signature trim. More of that material is going to continue up here. We do have a soft touch plastic on the highest portions of the dashboard, more leatherette through here, double stitching detail, more of the faux wood, soft touch plastic through there. And then most of the trim levels are actually going to come with this padded area along the console. And everything in here does fit together extremely well, as you pretty much expect from a Mazda product. Now to start it up, put your foot on the brake and press the button. Now, as you know by this point in the video, Mazda has restructured the trim levels this year, so I'll go through and kind of tell you which features you now get on which trim levels, because of course it is different than last year and what you're used to with the CX-5. So as far as our digital gauges here, so this is our 7-inch partially reconfigurable gauge cluster. You can change the different information right there in the center when you cycle through the button on the steering wheel. This is now included on the premium trim level and above. Additionally, since we have the Premium Plus trim level, that's going to throw in a head-up display, which you can't really see very well right now, but it is up there. And then as far as the steering wheel though, this is going to be a standard feature. You're going to have the standard nice leather-wrapped steering wheel. Even if you choose the base model, you have special stitching on the Carbon Edition as well as the Signature. And then you also have standard rain sensing wipers, though the wheel itself is going to be manual tilt and telescoping. And steering wheel heating is going to be included on the Premium Plus trim level and above. But as a family crossover, let's go ahead and get into interior storage. So I'll turn over here to the console area. This is going to remain the same for 2022. So we open it up. We do have a little bin right here, which we can remove. It's got a nice felt lining in it. And then there's your whole center console. Again, there's a felt lining at the bottom, pretty decently sized. We have 2 USB ports, as well as a 12-volt outlet inside. And here's my big thick stack of coupons here. Yeah, look at that. They're gonna fit no problem whatsoever, although of course it's not quite as large as some of the competition. Up in front of that, we've got our 2 cup holders. And then we have another large storage area right there in the front with a 12-volt outlet, although this is not a wireless phone charging pad. Now coming back to the shifter, this is of course a traditional style, so you just pull down for drive, bump to the left, shift manually, and of course you do have paddle shifters on the steering wheel. And then heading into reverse, pretty much all the models are going to have this backup camera you see right here. It does not have active trajectory, but the resolution was upgraded a little bit last year. If you want the 360-degree camera system, which has front and rear parking sensors as well, that is signature exclusive. So I really would like to see that come down to a little bit of the lower trim levels as well, but that is how it is. Back behind that, you do have your electronic parking brake with your brake hold function as well. And then this right here, I want to direct our attention to this. This is new for 2022. As you can see, this previously just switched between normal and sport mode, but now it's called MI Drive. And this basically gives you more drive modes than ever before. So new to the CX-5 is the ability to switch between an off-road and also a sport mode, and both of those now change the graphics inside of the gauge cluster, so that's pretty cool. And I'm glad to see that addition. Now back behind that, you do have your control knob, which helps control the infotainment system. And then over here, you have your volume knob. So you've got 3 different sound systems. These premium trim levels and above, those are gonna come with the upgraded 10-speaker Bose Centerpoint sound system. So of course, today with our Premium Plus, we do have that system, and let's go ahead and give it a sample right now. Yeah, so just like we said with past Mazda CX-5 reviews, this is a very nice sounding sound system. Alright, now carrying our way up the dashboard a little bit further, we're going to come to our climate controls. Just like with the last model year, pretty much the entire lineup is going to have the dual zone automatic climate control. Everything except for the very base model. As you can see, simple adjustment since you have all your physical controls laid out nicely right there. The same thing as the climate control is going to go for the heated seats as well. So all but the base model are going to have the heated seats. However, if you want seat ventilation, that's going to require you coming up to this Premium Plus trim level or above. And then let's raise on up here to our main infotainment system. So this is not new this year, but as you probably know, I believe it was last year that is when they added this updated system with this larger and much improved display. So this is 10.25 inches. This is standard on all the models. It is not a touchscreen. You do have to use that control knob down there on the dashboard. And as you can see, it does have the latest Mazda infotainment software. We don't have the built-in navigation system. That's reserved for the highest end trim levels, but you do have standard Android Auto and standard Apple CarPlay abilities. Checking out the mirror, we do have the auto dimming one with the HomeLink universal remotes. This is included on the new preferred trim level or above. If you go for the signature, you'll have the special frameless design. We do have incandescent lighting on this trim level. You got the sunglass holder. And then up here at the top, we do have the standard size sunroof. This is also included on the preferred trim level and higher.
All right, guys, join me in the rear area of the refreshed Mazda CX-5. Now, when it comes to refreshes, that doesn't mean they change a lot in terms of the space. So this is going to be pretty much the same as it was last year for the CX-5, which is certainly not a bad thing. We'll talk about the space first. So we're looking at 39.6 inches of rear legroom and 39 inches of headroom. And as you can see behind Drew's seating position, Drew is 5'8", I'm 5'9". We do still have a few inches of spare legroom with the seat adjusted to his height. It is worth noting, as compared to the competition, that is larger than the Toyota RAV4. However, it is slightly smaller than the Honda CR-V. Now also the features are pretty good in the CX-5. So here in the center you will notice vents. These are going to be standard on the vast majority of CX-5 models, and you're like, where are the USB ports? Well, if you fold down the center armrest here, you're going to notice a few things. We have cup holders up here in the front, and then if you go for the Premium Plus trim level, which is what we have with us today, you're going to have 3-stage heated rear seats. That's going to be standard on Premium Plus and above. And then if we open up this center area, we have a nice felt line storage cubby. You might be able to fit a few coupons in here, but you're also going to have 2 charging USB ports right here. They're the regular USB Type A setup. And I do also want to point out that you can recline the seats ever so slightly. Alrighty guys, let's walk up to the tailgate of the CX-5. So you're going to notice that this trim level does have a power one. That's going to come on the preferred trims and above in the CX-5 lineup. Still no hands-free function though. I would like to see them add that maybe in the upcoming model years. Now, as far as the space is concerned back here in the CX-5, you're going to have a little bit less space than you would in some of the competition. You're going to look at 30.9 cubic feet behind the second row seats. They do fold 40-20-40 split, and then as a maximum you have 59.6 cubic feet of space. So, you know, that is decent space figures. It's not the most in the entire segment. You know, as you can see with the seats folded down, you're going to have plenty of space for, you know, all that you need. However, you know, the RAV4, the CR-V, the Rogue, those are all going to have about 10 cubic foot, maybe more space than this. So that's just something to consider if you're looking at the CX-5 in comparison to those models. Now, let's talk about the feature set that they've thrown back here. We have a really nice carpeting. I don't know if this floor mat is standard, and we also have the really nice metal CX-5 branding right here, which is a nice touch. If we go over here to the left side, you will notice that we have this little storage cubby. And then if we pop open the underfloor storage, there you will find your spare tire. Now your passenger seat is going to be 6-way power adjusting on this higher end model. And then if we check out the glove box here, I'm going to find a really nice glove box. You know, this is something I just want to point out. It's nicely felt lined, and that's something you really just don't get on this segment. It feels like a luxury vehicle. Then as far as our coupons are concerned, Mazda's always done this pretty well. There's a lot of space in here. It's exactly the right width, so I'm happy about that. And then up top, we have a sun visor. We're going to have some lighting as well as a mirror. It's not LED though, and you can also detach it, and there is an extension in the end.
Accelerating up to about 60 miles per hour with this 2022 CX-5. So as I mentioned at the beginning, we have the standard engine with our CX-5 today, because as the trim structure, we now have S through Premium Plus trim level with the standard 2.5 liter 4-cylinder engine. It's going to be making 187 horsepower, 186 pound-feet of torque. That is the same as last year. However, not the same as last year is your turbo models. So the turbo and the turbo signature trim levels, those will be the models with the turbo engine. That's actually making 6 more horsepower this year from the 2.5 liter turbo 4-cylinder, which takes you up to 256 horsepower and 320 pound-feet of torque, which are really excellent numbers.
Yeah.
I don't know if you'll be able to tell you have 6 more horsepower per se, but that already was a really, really powerful engine. So if you're interested in speed, definitely would highly recommend taking a look at that motor.
Yeah. And also it's worth noting that is with premium fuel, you will have slightly less power if you go for regular fuel, but that is an option if you would prefer not to pay more per gallon.
Yeah, but as far as the standard engine, really it's plenty of power. It's actually quite good for the class. You have plenty of torque, and it just feels really nice around town. So I don't mean it like you have to get the turbo engine. It's just that the turbo engine is so much fun that for kind of speed junkies like Mason and I, we really enjoy being behind the wheel of the turbo. But this one here is going to be totally fine for your everyday use.
And just kind of cruising along here just on this little side road, I just want to point out the ride quality of the CX-5, and one of my favorite elements about it is just how solid it is. If you've stuck around the channel for a long time, you probably have watched one of our CX-5 reviews in which we talk about just how cohesive it is. That is, of course, going to continue for 2022. When you hit a bump, you can feel it. As you would with anything in the segment, you can feel a little bit of penetration into the cabin, but everything just fits together so well. You don't hear any rattles, and the ride quality itself is really good. And this is a family vehicle first and foremost, so that is exactly what it's made to do.
Very premium, very solid. I think we said before, described it kind of like almost a German feel to it, where everything just kind of feels like one solid structure. Now we have one thing that stays the same and one thing that's different about the powertrain situation. So the thing that stays the same, 6-speed automatic transmission this year. That is the same, like I said, down a couple gears from some of the rivals, but it is, nice and smooth. It is pretty responsive, and honestly, it's not something that has ever bothered me about this model.
Not super problematic.
Yeah. Now, what's different? Standard all-wheel drive this year. So this is now one of the few vehicles in the class that's just going to give you all-wheel drive across the board, no matter if you choose the base model or the top-end model.
Yeah. And of course, that does mean you only are going to have 2 different fuel economies. So with the base engine, like what we have with us today, we're looking at 24, 30, 26 combined. If you go for the turbo model, it's only going to drop to 24 miles a gallon combined. So not a huge penalty for going for the turbo. But if you want that maximum fuel economy, you will get this model here with all-wheel drive. And getting up to speed here, we'll get our sound level reading. 57.3 decibels. It's a very solid reading. I actually think it switched over 56.4 towards the end of that, that's a really good reading for anything in this segment. Like we were mentioning earlier, it does have that German feel, and part of that is because it's very quiet inside of here.
So like I mentioned on the interior, we do have those updated drive modes. I'll click us into Sport here before I talk about one of the things I wanted to mention, the driving dynamics. As you can see, that does definitely bring the revs up immediately. And so with the driving dynamics, that's not everybody's top priority in this segment. But this vehicle is just fun. And that's what it's really important to talk about, because that's in the competition, they don't really do that very well at all.
No.
They're very much not fun. And when you get behind the wheel of this, it's just enjoyable to drive. You have really fast steering, really nice and responsive, good body control, and this is just a nice vehicle to drive. And you don't really have too many choices of super nice handling vehicles in this segment. So when you're a driving enthusiast like we are, that is something that automatically brings you up ahead of a lot of the competition.
Yeah. And we'll go ahead and mention the slam dunk and airball for today. Of course, we're here in Kentucky, so we got to talk a little bit about basketball. Our slam dunk is going to be the 2022 updates. There are quite a few things that we could have picked. I think this is the best one to summarize, at least for this model year, because they have made quite a few updates that I think really add overall to the package. I love the new headlights. I love the new taillights. The new wheel options are also really nice, and standard all-wheel drive is always a nice plus, especially when I'm going to talk about the pricing here in just a second.
On the airball side of things, I do want to mention something I haven't said up to this point. That is the fact that the turbo engine that we do love so much is a little bit more restricted this year as far as the trim levels you can get it on. For instance, the Carbon edition we drove last year had the turbo or the availability to get the turbo, and this year you cannot do that anymore.
But let's talk about the pricing, because I was talking about that earlier, as how that standard all-wheel drive system really doesn't affect the price that much. So prices rise less than $1,000 despite having standard all-wheel drive on all the trim levels. So the S is going to start at $25,900. There's a million different trims now, and then you top out with the turbo signature that has $38,650 as its starting point. Now this tester, the Premium Plus all-wheel drive, we have just a few accessories plus the 1225 destination, brings this one to $35,400 as tested.
So at the beginning we asked, is this CX-5 a compact crossover you should be considering? Yes, for sure. This was a compact crossover you should have been considering before the 2022 updates, and these 2022 updates really just sweeten the deal. It still has all those signature Mazda elements, like the great handling, the great standard equipment, the luxury in here, but now you even have those additional features that they've added for 2022, which just makes it even better.
Well guys, we hope you enjoyed watching our in-depth review of the 2022 Mazda CX-5 Premium Plus. They have done quite a bit with this 2022 model to make this different, and I hope you enjoyed this video pointing out a lot of those differences, as well as an in-depth look at the trim comparison. If you did, please hit that subscribe button down below. We would really appreciate it. And also follow us on our other social medias like TikTok and Instagram. We have other forms of content there, so you won't want to miss out. Anyway, we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.